just about to pick up Kris. He just finished a huge bike ride, 6,400 kilometers from the top of the Northwest Territories all the way down to San Diego. And we're going to ask him a couple questions and see how the ride went and see what he went through. Kris, did you ever feel like people that knew you weren't surprised or impressed that you biked as far as you did? Kris was always the guy that biked to school. In my memory, it was even all winter long. Kris was always biking. We weren't really close at the time, but he was the guy that biked to school and was a runner and extremely fast and athletic.
I guess if it was like most likely to bike across the continent in high school yearbook, I probably would have been up there, yeah.
Yeah, like
somewhere near the top.
Did you put that in your yearbook?
I can't remember what I put in my yearbook. I think I put something like, I like my classes and my friends. It wasn't very original, no.
While we're driving, I gotta ask, like, what was your sketchiest experience that you had? I'm guessing it was involving traffic during your tour.
Yeah, there was a few times that I was like buzzed by a vehicle, like it was a near miss.
Okay. What was your worst campsite that you had?
The last night was pretty memorable because the Amtrak, which is like a super fast passenger train that honks its horn every hour, was like, dude, it was like 100 meters behind our campsite, and like I barely slept like all night. And on top of that, they were doing construction at 6 in the morning with like a guy with an air horn.
Oh my god!
And this was like close to LA, so it was like just super busy, and the traffic was, yeah, that was a pretty bad experience. But woke up in the morning to like this guy at 8 a.m., like the campsite owner, this like angry old guy, basically being like, "You didn't pay last night." And I was like, "Yeah, because I got here at 3:30 in the morning. I got off the ferry." And he didn't care. He was like super uncompassionate and basically told me like to get in the golf cart and come to the office with him like right away. Like,
you had to get in a golf cart?
Dude, like, I was like, "No, give me 10 minutes." He's like, "No, you're coming right now.
Let's go this way."
And yeah, so like he like forced me into the golf cart. I get to the office and he like snatches my visa and like puts it through a manual imprint machine.
Yeah.
Says that the cost of the campsite is $18, and then my visa, it's like $35. I checked the balance later, and I called the campsite. I was like, "I think there's a mistake here." Never heard from him again. So don't go to that campsite, Port Hardy, Wildwoods, because you'll get scammed and yelled at.
That was my experience on the Gulf Islands too, is some angry person in a golf cart tracking me down within 5 minutes of me rolling into a campsite trying to get my money for the campsite.
Yep.
So I can definitely relate to the golf cart old guy wanting some cash situation.
Did you say that it was a Gulf Islands cart?
Yes, it was. I guess what most people want to know is, why the fuck would you bike that far? Why would anyone bike that far? You know, what drove you to make that decision or just to do that?
That's a really tough question. It's like, why does anyone do anything? You know, like, why do we go on a road trip, or like, why do we go hiking somewhere? I was inspired one long winter night, like last year, and I guess I just like started looking at like roads in North America, and I thought, what if you could go from like the northernmost point to like all the way down south where it's tropical? And it just like, I don't know, it had a huge wave of inspiration, and yeah, led me to sort of the beginning of this trip.
Wow, that's huge. So you just kind of had like a I'm guessing it was overcast that day. You're a little, you're a little down, and you just thought like, I need to do something huge, and this was the only thing that could sate your appetite at that point.
Dude, everybody dreams of freedom and open roads, and I just thought like, yeah, like what's stopping me? Like, why not? And it kind of gave me the start to like plan something like this. And yeah, there was a ton of planning that went into it, but the reality is that like, I always knew that it could be possible. It just would take a lot of effort and a lot of time.
Was it a lot of effort, Kris?
Oh yeah. But it was worth it, and I don't want to say I'd do that trip again, but I'd do a trip of that magnitude again for sure.
Wow. So I gotta say, like, with that question, I think a lot of people wonder why you did it, but I also think that they think it's absolutely unbelievable and incredible. So good job for biking that far. It's incredible.
Oh, thanks, man. It's just, I don't know, it's just a day-to-day routine, and it just like anything in your life, just like waking up and going to work, it's just like, what am I gonna do today? Well, I'm gonna wake up and cycle, and you take it in bite-sized chunks, and you know, like 80, 100 kilometers each day, and before you know it, you're actually, you know, moving a sizable distance within Canada, and then within North America, and it kind of just comes together.
So what was your biggest day?
Biggest day was like 2 kilometers shy of 160, so 158 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Did elevation change have anything to do with that distance? Like, was there a lot of downhill, or was that just a huge day for your legs?
No, there was a lot of uphill on that day, man.
Oh my God.
I stopped at like 4 p.m. that day, and I had already covered like, I want to say 110, and it was still like 40 kilometers to the next town. And I like looked at my phone because like Google has elevation readings.
Yeah.
And it still said 400 meters up in elevation within those 40 kilometers, which is like a lot.
Yeah. Did you bike the day after that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So tell us about the raccoons, Kris. I think everybody's wondering what happened that night.
They're spawns of Satan sent to absolutely take everything that bicyclists treasure.
Yeah, because they're professional thieves. Like, they're bandits.
Yeah. And actually this one night I had my bags sitting literally right beside me in my covered tent vestibule, and I was just like reading with my headlight, and I just like see this movement. I like hear a bunch of rustling, and I thought it was my friend Guy, and I was like, Guy, is that you? And like no response. And like I was like, I kind of got nervous. It's like, what animal is that? And then this like raccoon head pops under my tent vestibule and looks me right in the eye, and we're just like having a staring contest for like 10 seconds. And then he just like reaches his hands out and just grabs one of my saddlebags and pulls it and just like runs away. And I was like, oh shit. And I had to like get out of my sleeping bag and like chase this raccoon down the path.
Kris, did you get to do any climbing during your travels?
I did actually. Terrace, BC. I hopped on a sport road. That was fun. But like overall, no, it was mostly biking. I think I like messed around on a few boulders the odd time. It was just leg day every day, yeah.
Did you feel like teased at all, like when you were getting close to places like Yosemite, or was it ever dangled like right out before your eyes?
To be honest, no. Like I was pretty far from Yosemite. Yosemite's like pretty far inland.
Yeah.
And most of the coast is just like sort of like, I want to say like green rolling hills to brown rolling hills. A lot of like not really cliff terrain.
So you're going to the climbing gym tomorrow.
Yeah.
Are you like, are you somewhat apprehensive at maybe like some lost strength, or are you pretty like?
I think I've lost some strength, yeah.
are you just excited to get back on the grind and
I
strengthen your fingers?
I'm gonna start training definitely this winter again. Like, I want to get real strong for the spring season.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think definitely a lot of strength has been lost on this trip. Yeah, well, as you can see, my legs aren't like super strong and wide by any means, but I think they can just, you know, keep cycling all day.
So Kris, what was the longest you went on your trip without showering? The longest period?
I want to say 11 days. I'm not proud of that. Yeah, it was pretty good. I was at a public pool in Dawson City, and I was in there for about half an hour.
Did your legs ever get used to that sort of distance and that beating every single day? Like, did you wake up feeling really sore?
Oh, every morning, yeah. Yeah, I woke up tired a lot of mornings, and I was like, damn, I still have to cycle like 6 hours today. And yeah, I don't know, I just kind of like was really lazy for a couple hours in the morning and just started cycling, and once you get going it gets better. Literally I would take like 2 hours to like take down camp and have breakfast and like just delay the inevitable departure.
Yeah.
For the day.
Kris, was there any times you felt like giving up, like that you just lost all of your motivation to continue?
Actually, there was only one time, and that was when I stopped in Nanaimo, like midway. And I literally, like, it was a great halfway point. It was after I finished the Canada portion and before the US portion.
Yeah.
And I stopped for like 2-3 weeks. And it got to the point where I was like literally back in my regular routine again. Like I was like watching Netflix on the couch with like Coronas. And yeah, I was like, damn, I kind of like went down to the garage one day and saw my bike, and it was like a little dusty. And I was like, I guess I'm on a bike trip still. And I was like, I don't know, like I guess, I don't know, like do I want to keep going? And I'm so glad I did. Like I just kind of, it was like so uneventful when I packed up and left again. It was just kind of like waving goodbye to my dad at the end of my driveway. I just like rolled down. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing this, and
Carry on.
yeah, it wasn't really like a huge moment. It was just kind of like that decision to keep going.
Do you think you'll ever, like you were originally planning on going all the way to the tip of the badge of the Baja Peninsula?
Yes.
Dude, like what happened there? I guess tell us what happened. And
primarily I realized that cycling Mexico is probably pretty safe, but more safe if you do it with someone else.
yeah.
And I didn't really have a partner for it. Also, I ran out of money. And
While we're talking about money, like ballpark, what did this trip cost? I know you're like me and you have no idea of what's realistically going on with your finances, but what do you think it costed?
Well, I haven't looked at my last visa bill, and I'm a little scared to do so, but I think that overall this trip probably cost, I want to say like $6,500, $7,000 maybe. And that's for like a solid, like 4 months, including airlines. So it's like
all the way from Tuktoyaktuk Tuktoyaktuk, all the way down to San Diego was only $7,000, and you were on the road for 3 months.
Yeah, well, 4 months if you
4
include
months.
the rest. Yeah,
Wow, I think that's pretty cheap.
that's not too bad.
I think that's a cheap way to see
Some
the
people said it
see
was
the
pretty
coast.
expensive, like, but I was like living in luxury most of the time. Like, other than camping, I was eating like great meals and like, I don't know, ordering like drinks a lot too. Like, I was not being like a dirtbag by any means.
And you guys thought Kris was crazy for biking 6,400 kilometers. It's a cheap way to travel, folks. So if I think about biking 6,400 kilometers or for intermittently for 4 months, I think of a lot of repairs. So the chain slowly gets a little squeaky. I know you have a really high-end bike, but like, tell us about the repairs that you had to do and the maintenance you had to do.
As far as the chain goes, I had it replaced 2 times, so I went through 3 chains.
Wow.
I had not actually that many problems, but the problems I did have were a little worrisome. Like, I broke a spoke in the middle of nowhere, Yukon, and it was like 400 kilometers from any gas station, 1,000 kilometers from the nearest bike shop.
That's exciting.
And I had an extra spoke and a spoke wrench, which you use to replace it, but I didn't have the wrench that you need to take off the gears, and I was just hoping that a spoke didn't break on that side, like is your back tire on your left side with all the gears.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that wrench to take the gears off, so I was like pretty worried I'd have to like just ride with a broken spoke for like 1,000 kilometers. But this random cyclist from Boston, I was like at Eagle Plains, and I was just chatting with him. We played some pool together, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I totally have the wrench that you're looking for." And he spent like literally an hour like fixing up my bike, and he like even shortened the chain a little bit, and he's like, "Yeah, I noticed that your gears are a little bit off. Do you want me to like adjust them?" And I was like, "Yeah, like if you don't mind." I watch in amazement, like middle of nowhere, this guy like repair my bike. And
Do you feel like a really you know, like a seasoned veteran at repairing bikes now, or do you still have a lot to learn?
Well, I know how to take apart and put together a bike in like a matter of, I'd say, an hour and a half or 2 hours now.
And put it in a box to go on an airplane.
Yeah, so I can dismantle my bike, put it back together just like a bike shop would do. I can repair a chain, I can change spokes, I can change flats, obviously.
How many of those did you get?
I got 1 flat.
Wow.
In 6,500 kilometers, so I got pretty lucky there. But I also had a good pair of tires, so.
You joined a pack of bike tourers during your tour. When you set out from Tuktoyaktuk, was this anticipated? Like, did you expect to join people on your trip?
The thought had always been in the back of my mind that there would have been other people cycling, but it wasn't a guarantee. I set off solo and it was my trip and I was doing my distances, but it actually ended up being that I would meet a lot of people just at the end of the day, like in the campsite up north, and that were also cycling, and sometimes they'd be going the opposite direction or slower or faster than me.
Yeah.
So we'd never really cycle together, but so as I got further south, it actually got to be that people were going the same speed as me, and I met a friend of a friend who was also cycling the US Pacific Coast.
Yeah.
And we cycled together for like a solid couple weeks at least. So that was a really nice change, having someone to cycle with, and it just kind of, you know, made the experience a little more sociable.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
And in California, it turned into 6 of us that were cycling together for about 5 or 6 days.
Wow.
And yeah, it turned into like a full like biker gang. We'd just be like leapfrogging each other along the highway, and like at nights we'd be like chatting and drinking. And yeah, it was, so I really didn't anticipate like a full group of people like that. But yeah, like primarily a solo trip just like gives you a lot of time for like self-reflection, and just a lot of time to just kind of be at peace with yourself. I think a lot of the time people just kind of like, I don't know, don't really look at their own feelings or like what they want. They just kind of
carry on.
And yeah, when you're on a trip, you have nothing but yourself to kind of be with all day. That sounds really depressing.
Oh, it's the way it is, though.
Yeah, and I don't know. You just can like really kind of think about what you want and like who you want to be, and I enjoy that.
Is there a single piece of gear that you couldn't do this trip without?
It sounds kind of interesting, but like definitely my cell phone. Like if I didn't have that to like navigate or like say how far I had to go or like how much elevation I still had to go, I'd be in a lot of trouble, like especially navigating some of those cities like San Francisco or LA.
Yeah.
If I didn't have my cell phone, like there's no way I could get to where I was going. Yeah, as far as like other gear goes, I'd have to say my tent, like MSR tent hubba. That thing held out so solid every single night, except for the night that it got flooded.
Yeah, how's the bathtub floor?
Oh. Yeah, so I wake up and I'm feeling sick that day. I was gonna have a rest day because I was feeling pretty sick.
Yeah.
And you know that feeling when you're like all cozied up beneath your blankets, or like in my case, a sleeping bag. And I was just like, okay, I can get another 2 hours of sleep. It was like 8 a.m. And then this absolute torrential rain starts pouring. Like picture like, I don't know, like you're like that hurricane footage you see of like sideways sheet rain. Like that was the kind of rain that was coming down. And I start seeing this puddle forming like right beside my tent, and then it starts creeping under. And I'm like trying to brush the puddle away. Obviously did nothing. So there's a moment when I realized like my tent is breached. I have to leave. And I like gathered all my stuff.
You're trying to brush it away with your hands.
Well, yeah, because like I don't know, I was like pushing, like soaking it up with my towel and like pushing it away. And, obviously that did nothing.
Yeah.
And I had to pack everything up in a matter of like 5, not even 2 minutes, run to like a covered bathroom and just watch miserably from underneath this covered bathroom as like rain cascaded down. And it finally let up. So like go back to my tent like 10 minutes later, and my tent is literally like under 3 inches of water. Like it's like submerged.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, I mean, like, I don't think any tent would hold up to that, but...
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Alright. Probably get a job this winter. I think maybe like serving or like some outdoor store. And save up for the next trip.
Got some stuff scoped out already? Some possible employees?
No.
Played by ear, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, like I think in the future I want to continue where I left off. Even like if I were to do another bike trip, like I'd probably start like in San Diego and tour down through like Central America to Panama City. That's the next step, maybe.
And after that, maybe hop skipping away South America.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, let's not get carried away, but it's a possibility.
World is our oyster.
Yes, well said.
Do
First, I'm gonna finish this season.
Cheers.